This is Daily Blast Live. We're talking about what you're talking about. Real, honest, entertaining, live. DBL starts right now.
Welcome to DBL, everybody. Hi there. It's Monday, April 20th. If you are a new viewer, we're so glad you're here. We're the mac and cheese of your daytime TV. Hi to all you OGs. What's up out there as well? I'm Tori. I'm the only host in the studio. My fellow co-hosts are totally safe, but they're staying inside. Now, if I look a little different today, we're having some technical issues with the lighting. It looks like an 80s discotheque in Europe, and it's like very oocha, oocha, oocha. So if I look a little different, that's the thing, but we're live. We're interactive, and we're 100% real with you. So that's what's going on. Right now, joining me from their homes with no 80s disco lighting, it is Al Jackson and Stephanie Jones. Hi, guys.
Morning, Tori.
Good morning.
I wish I could see you. I want to see this lighting.
I took a video. I took a video for you and Steph, you and Al, to see it, and it's like cool if you're like 1985, being like, I'm gonna go pick up a chick. But right now, for daytime, we just moved it to the big wall, so it all looks good. How are you, Al? Your pocket square is pretty aggressive today. I like it.
It's aggressive, but you know what, Tori, and I'm glad you brought it up. I did a couple of YouTube videos on pocket squares that I'm kind of showing off a little bit. This is called the 3 stairs pocket square. You can see the 1 stair here, 1 here, and then the final stair here, all right? So this is where we are with the COVID-19.
I fell asleep listening to that horrendously boring story. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. Oh man, that was great. We're gonna get started here. Let's hear more about Al's pocket square. Just kidding. More and more protests are actually taking place around the nation, with people demanding an end to the coronavirus restrictions. Here in Colorado, hundreds of protesters stood in front of the Capitol, and even more tried to block streets with their cars. Protests also took place in Wisconsin, Minnesota, Idaho, and right now they are protesting in Pennsylvania. Now, I don't know if you've seen this. I posted it on my Instagram. Some medical workers, these two, took to the streets to block the way for protesters in their cars, okay? A woman holding a sign yelled at a nurse to get out of her way. So what do the protesters want? Well, listen to what one man said while at the protest at the Colorado Capitol.
There's a way to begin to open up the economy in a safe and responsible way that people that don't represent the same risk profile can go out and start to engage and start to spend and start to have dinners out again.
I just want to say I stand with those healthcare workers 100%. I'm very proud of those healthcare workers. Meantime, some states are lifting restrictions, like here in Jacksonville, Florida, where the beaches have reopened so people can exercise. I wanted to just give you guys a quote, and then I want to find out. I want to know if you think these protesters have a point. Certainly, they're allowed to be there unless they're posing some kind of public health risk. But, you know, Al, 2,953 souls died on 9/11, and we consider that a huge tragedy. Almost 2,000 people died on Saturday of coronavirus. And I feel like we're ignoring that depth. The Boston Globe had 16 pages of death notifications. How do you feel about the protests?
Yeah, you know, Tori, when we first started DBL, I would have seen this story in the morning packet, and I'd be like, why are we covering this story? And I would be like, you know, well, of course, but, you know, I now realize 3 years in why we cover these stories. This is how some people feel, and as disturbing as it may be to others, this is how people feel. They are frustrated and they're scared and they don't really understand what's going on. And that's why, and it may sound condescending, but it is true. This man wants to go out and get the economy back opened up, and I'm asking you to where, sir? We cannot open bars back up. We cannot open restaurants back up because we do not have testing yet. Trust me, as somebody that does stand-up comedy, my job is anti-social distancing. I miss it like I miss one of my kids, but I cannot do it. Americans are all making a sacrifice. People all over the world making a sacrifice, and he needs to kind of fall in line.
Yeah, I agree. I know you want to liberate your states, but how about you liberate the testing so we can all get tested? I'd rather be 6 feet apart than 6 feet under, to be super honest with you. Moving on, Steph, I want your opinion on this. All across the world, more than 14 million people tuned in to watch the One World Together at Home virtual virtual concert on Saturday night. Lady Gaga picked the musical lineup for the event, which raised more than $127 million for the World Health Organization's COVID-19 response fund. All three late-night hosts came together to host it. Take a look at some of the night's biggest moments, starting with Jennifer Hudson's rendition of Hallelujah.
When you're not strong, and I'll be your friend, I'll help you carry on. You can't always get what you want. Now you can't always get what you want.
In doctor's office lighting, I didn't tell you I was scared.
And she saw
I was in tears. I thought Lizzo singing that beautiful song when she belted it. It was amazing. Steph, what do you think of the performances?
Oh my gosh, it was absolutely amazing. So obviously last week we had Disney and Friends where we saw Beyonce and Ariana Grande and loads of celebrities, and I thought that was incredible. And then Lady Gaga has just pulled this off to a whole other level. The names that were included were amazing. I loved seeing Jennifer Hudson. There's something so special about her voice. It's very gospel and it's moving and it's just so powerful. And I also loved seeing, you know, J-Lo too. It maybe wasn't as moving, but it was beautiful. I loved seeing her in a more, I want to say stripped down environment. She still was in the most gorgeous garden with these fairy lights looking all ethereal. It made me think of your house actually, because you've got all the fairy lights. I could just see you with like a tree like that, you know?
It's totally true. I do have to be honest. That's a Barbra Streisand song, and I didn't think J-Lo really carried it, but I really appreciated her effort. Moving on, coronavirus is shaking up a lot of things in America, including the handshake, which is going the way of the dinosaur, at least for the time being. So what's going to replace it? Here are some other things you can do. First, we could use the namaste greeting, demonstrated here, of course, by Prince Harry. You just put your hands together at your heart with a little bow. Another suggestion is this shaka sign, kind of like you're on a beach in Hawaii. Or we could go with hello in sign language. It's like a salute, but with your hand going up. And others are suggesting putting your hand to your heart. Al, how would you like me to greet you without a handshake? Is there a specific way? Maybe address the pocket square?
Tori, I'm just going to tell you this. Once again, black men way out in front of everybody on this. We've been doing this for a long time. Obviously, our handshakes are bar none. But a lot of times, especially where I'm from in Ohio and different parts of the South, black men speak to each other a lot. And we might not handshake because we probably don't know each other. But you just give a...
Oh, a nod.
Just like that.
A nod. Okay.
Sometimes you might throw this in there. Yeah, and you're good.
Okay, mine looks like a reaction or a bee sting to something like that, but I got to just do it more like that. Steph, how would I say hi to you that you would feel okay without touching you?
Oh, you know what? This is really hard because I'm a very tactile person.
Right.
So this is going to be a difficult one for me, and I'm not as cool as Al. I can't do the whole head nod thing. And I read something about someone suggesting an eyebrow lift, but if you're like me and full of Botox in the forehead, that's not going to happen.
That's not going to happen. Another one I saw was foot to foot. But I'm like, I'm already extremely clumsy, and I think that might be just a bad idea. So DBL Nation, please write in what you guys think. A lot of people writing. Ellis Walker saying, great concert on Saturday night. I thought it was fantastic. Let us know what you thought of the concert and how to handshake. Stephanie and Al, do not go away. Coming up on DBL. She's become a regular on the show. We'll see what she's wearing. Dr. Pyle Coley's back to answer your coronavirus questions. Plus, the pandemic hits close to home for a couple in New York. She's a nurse, and he's a corrections officer. So what is life like on the front lines of COVID? Well, as we go to break, check out our empty studio. And I really want to give a big shout out to, there's Patty. Say hi, Patty. Everyone who was here this morning changed the lights in about 5 seconds. Huge shout out to Brian, Brad, and Adam, and Sharon, and Eileen. Huge job, and Jose. We'll be right back. Great job, guys.
Best
Hi guys, welcome back to DBL. What are we all about? A dress that looks like matzah and facts, not fear. Providing information to keep you and your loved ones safe. Our favorite person in the world, Dr. Payal Kohli. Oh, it's nice. It's like an oak, like a pumpkin. It's a pumpkin you're wearing. Is that what you thought?
Pumpkin.
Pumpkin.
Yes, pumpkin. Namaste from the pumpkin.
Namaste. Well, we are so lucky to have you here every day because, as you know, the news about the pandemic is changing all the time, and we at DBL want the info from an expert. So before we get to questions, though, I just want to go back to the protests we've been seeing. People are demanding that governors reopen businesses in their state so they can get back to work, and I understand that. But right here in Denver, healthcare workers stood in the streets to block those protesters. I think this will be a Pulitzer Prize-winning picture. I want your medical opinion on this. What are the dangers of reopening the economy too soon without tests?
Tori, this has me really worried, I have to be honest, for two reasons. One is because the protests themselves are what we call spreader events, and there are people congregating, even if they're staying in their cars, lots of people getting together. And we'll see the results of these in 2 weeks, and I predict we're going to have a spike in cases in 2 weeks because it is very hard to socially distance when so many of you are together. And the second reason is that if we open the economy too soon without following the testing, without following what we're supposed to be following, we're going to reset the clock back to the end of February. And what people have to realize is that the virus does not tell us, does not listen to us. It tells us when we can open the economy. So we have to follow the data, not the dates. And until we let the virus tell us when it's time to open, if we open prematurely, it's going to be catastrophic.
Wow. Thank you for those. You didn't mince those words. I appreciate that. Let's get to our viewer questions. Damien, love that name, says, I read that New York is going to start antibody testing. What is that exactly, and should more states do the same?
So, Damien, there's two types of tests for coronavirus. The first is a nasal swab that tells you about active infection, so it looks in the present. And the second is a blood test that's an antibody test that tells you about previous infection, so it looks backwards. And this is one of the most important tests that we can do to decide how to open up our country again. And the reason is because once you test positive with the antibody test, we know that you've had the infection. You're no longer a risk to yourself or to others. So those are the people that we could actually release back into the economy and relax from social distancing. But unless everybody's doing this, and unless we're looking for people who may not have had symptoms and still test positive, we're not going to find those people. So it's critically important that all the states get this antibody test. And it has to be a good quality test, because we've heard a lot about these tests out there that are, you know, not very good quality.
Right,
so access plus accuracy is really important for these tests.
Okay, the antibody test, to be honest, is a big measure, you've always said, of where we need to be to even start to think about reopening. Moving on, Julia says, I've been hearing, Doc, about a second wave of the virus. Do we have any idea when that could hit and what it could look like? I know when the Spanish flu had it in 1918, almost 200,000 people died in a month. So I know we're more prepared than that, but what are we looking at?
So that's the interesting thing about this. The second wave is in our control. So if we continue to socially distance, there would not be a second wave. But of course, that's not a practical solution. At some point, we have to relax this a little bit. So when and how the second wave hit really depends on when we relax the social distancing and how. And that's why those protests really, really bother me to my core, because doing it with just flipping a light switch and sending everybody back is going to be the Spanish flu again. It's going to cause a bigger, steeper second wave. And it could happen in a month, or it could happen later this fall. But if we do it slowly in a really calculated fashion, looking at testing and slowly letting people back in gradually, that second wave could be much smaller or not exist at all.
Yeah, I feel like we need to do this with a scalpel, not like a hammer, in the way that we transition. Before we go, it is time for our namaste.
That's a great analogy.
Wasn't it? It was a doctor's analogy, so thank you. This is your Dr. Kohli silver lining. Namaste. What do you have for us today, Doc?
Yes, the namaste has been with my people, the Indian people, for hundreds of years.
Bravo.
So just like Al's got the head nod, I've got the namaste. So today's silver lining, Tori, is really, really cool, actually. So in New York City, where, of course, the rate of unemployment is through the roof, they're, you know, in the midst of their apex right now, we have seen that there has been a dramatic increase in the number of people that are applying to foster pets. So normally the pet fostering agencies get about 140 applications a month. Last month in March, they got 3,000 applications. So New Yorkers are using this this pandemic, being unemployed, being lonely as a way to, give back in a positive way to our pet community. They want the companionship, they have the time, and I just think that's awesome for those pets and for our community in general.
I absolutely do too. I know in Florida and I think Chicago, some of the shelters are empty. We want to say to those people, namaste with your dogs. Thank you so much, Dr. Coley. Of course, the doc will return tomorrow. So if you do have a question about coronavirus you want answered, write us on social media. Please do. You can email us also at info@dailyblastlive.com. There's no panic. There's just prevention and precautions and a little silver lining. We'll be right back. Welcome back to DBL and my yellow sunflower dress. Corinne and Matt Claire have been on lockdown with their 2 kids since late March. She's a nurse, bless her. He's a corrections officer at Rikers Island, and he's also a recovering COVID-19 patient. Earlier, Lindsay Granger spoke with them in today's DBL Spotlight.
So Matt, I want to start with you. Before you started to feel symptoms, what was it like for you to go to work every day? Were there a bunch of coronavirus cases at the jail?
Yes, there were a lot of cases. Not as many, obviously, as there are now, but there were a few cases. And, it was a very anxiety-filled time. Every day going to work, I had a lot of anxiety, just thinking about, contracting the virus, possibly bringing it home to my family, the effects that it would have on me. So, I have a stress-filled job in general, but that was probably the most anxiety I felt while being on the job.
And Corinne, I have to ask you, you're on the front lines as well as a nurse. What does this whole thing look like from your perspective?
Coming home from work is just, very scary. You don't want to infect your family. I would come home from work and get undressed in the shed, and Matt would come in and he would hand me a plastic bag, and I would undress in my shed. And it's just, it's different times. It's very weird. The virus, it's like an alien coming in. It's very freakish.
And Matt, I want to ask you, considering that you were exposed to the virus, do you feel that you had the protection and support you needed from your employer?
I would have liked to have seen more urgency in the beginning in terms of mandatory testing for everyone, staff and inmates, more widely distributed PPE equipment among the staff and inmates, more sanitizing of the facilities. But our union has been fighting for us to get us more equipment, masks, gloves, and hand sanitizers. But I do feel that if there were more urgent measures and precautions taken in the beginning, that the spread could have at least maybe been tamed or slowed down.
And it's interesting because celebrities had to jump in, like Meek Mill, Jay-Z, Van Jones, to help facilitate and bring some masks to the prisons. So it's interesting that the federal government wasn't able to step in there.
Right, exactly. It shouldn't be the case. You know, you shouldn't have to depend on celebrity millionaires to, you know, be delivering equipment.
And Matt, we hear all the news reports, but I want you to tell us, what is it like inside of Rikers Island now, as far as you know?
In terms of like the vibe in the facility, you know, it's just everyone's very on edge and you know, kind of tense, you know, and sad, you know. It's just a tense time for the staff members and for the inmates.
And I have to ask you both, are you scared to go back to work?
I'm concerned about, you know, getting reinfected and then, you know, again have to deal with bringing it home to, you know, my family and, you know, Corinne's parents are both 70 years old, and they're the primary caretakers of our children when we're working. So, you know, we, you know, hate to, you know, give it to them, you know, because obviously, you know, they would be more vulnerable.
It's a little depressing, you know. We're used to being around our family. We have a very big family. We're very close, and it's hard, you know. Yes, we have each other and we have our kids, but not being able to, you know, see my mom, not being able to just, you know, be together. The kids miss her. And when we go back to work, we are going to have to be more cautious of that.
Well, Corinne and Matt Claire, I'm wishing you guys the best. Thank you so much for sharing your story. We appreciate you. We'll be right back.
Promotional consider
Welcome back. If you see flying salad, it means it's time for a DBL Health Blast, sponsored by eHealth. So if you're feeling like your skin is freaking out, you're not alone. Think about it. We're all inside more, which is drier than outside. Plus, we're washing our hands so much more, which can really dry them out. So in addition to eating and sleeping well, here are some ways to help you wash your face. Make sure you use mild soaps. They contain gentle ingredients that keep your skin refreshed and healthy. Always applies a moisturizer cream to wet skin after you shower. That prevents dryness and cracking. Try serums and retinols. They protect against the extra light that comes from computer screens. Next, sunscreen is still crucial. When you step outside for a break, no matter what, your skin can be damaged. Lastly, give yourself a facial. And the script is too long, so we'll cut it down next time. When it comes to your health, look at eHealth. We'll see you. Bye.